as he can.
Aaron Rodgers is the greatest thrower of the football in the history of the NFL.
History.
Bar none.
Aaron Rodgers, as a talent, is the greatest quarterback in NFL history.
When we take a look back at the NFC playoff race of 2017, we have to put an asterisk beside the entire series. And not to take anything away from the 6 teams that participated, especially the team that would go on to win last year's Super Bowl. We have to consider that there is one man, one quarterback, who, if not for the fact that he was injured for about half the season, may have changed the entire turnout of the road to Super Bowl 52. This man is Aaron Rodgers. So you may be thinking, how could one person be so impactful that his presence could have reshaped the way the playoffs turned out? Well, let's look at it. With Aaron Rodgers missing 7 games, 2017 would be the first time the Packers actually missed the playoffs since Rodgers took over in 2008. In that span, they have won their division 5 times and were champions of Super Bowl 45. And it's the Hall of Fame type play from Rodgers that is the main and vital piece of Green Bay's success. On all accounts, since taking over for the legendary Brett Favre in 2008, Aaron Rodgers has been the best quarterback in the NFC, with maybe only Drew Brees rivaling him. Rodgers has the highest quarterback rating of any active quarterback at 104.2. Only Tom Brady has a lower interception percentage for quarterbacks who've played over 100 games since 2008. In fact, Rodgers hasn't thrown double digits interceptions since 2010, and that was the year they won the Super Bowl. He also has the most passing yards per attempt of any starting quarterback since 2008. And his amazing Madden video game type Hail Mary throws probably helps that stat. But then again, the Packers have had the luxury of being a part of a weak to inconsistent NFC North division, with the Bears team that is never really good, a Lions team that has the tendency to collapse as the seasons progress, and a Vikings team who prior to 2017 was middle of the road at best. In 2010, the one and only time this team was in the Super Bowl under Aaron Rodgers, is starting to feel like a distant memory. Now, there is no doubt that the Packers are a playoff team and win more than 7 games with A-Rod healthy the whole season. And with the other teams in the NFC North improving, the window of dominance may be closing for Rodgers and the Packers as he enters his 14th season. So with Aaron Rodgers healthy making the Green Bay Packers automatically a playoff team, is 2018 the year where Aaron Rodgers can bring another Super Bowl trophy to Green Bay and finally surpass his predecessor, the great Brett Favre? Well, let's see what the Packers did this offseason to help that happen. The biggest story of the Packers free agency was Jordy Nelson leaving for the Raiders. However, it could turn out to be not that big of a loss, as Jordy Nelson may not be Jordy Nelson anymore. He's 32, going into his 10th season, and last year he only caught 53 passes for 482 yards and 6 touchdowns. Now yes, Rodgers being out may have had something to do with the lack of performance, but Jordy Nelson's catch percentage has slowly declined year after year. And Aaron Rodgers will still have Devontae Adams and Randall Cobb. These two have been more than consistent and can easily step up where needed with Nelson being gone. And let's not forget the Packers picked up Jimmy Graham, which to me is huge. And although he's a tight end and Jordy Nelson is a wide receiver, if we are looking at this as a like-for-like replacement as far as having a receiving target is concerned, this is a major upgrade. The league is changing. We are starting to see more and more teams use a dominant tight end as their primary target and have 3 or 4 really solid receivers as opposed to the one flashy wideout. Now, Graham never really took off in his 3 seasons in Seattle the way he did in New Orleans. But Aaron Rodgers' style of play is very similar to Drew Brees, the guy Jimmy Graham had throwing to him when he was a Pro Bowl top 5 tight end in the league. Also, although Jimmy Graham's receiving yards didn't jump off the page in Seattle, he did have 10 touchdowns last year, as Russell Wilson was able to use him primarily as a red zone target. I believe Graham will be back in elite form with Aaron Rodgers, and I'm making the bold prediction that Jimmy Graham will be in the Pro Bowl in 2018. And the idea of Aaron Rodgers having Jimmy Graham to throw to in the red zone is going to keep defensive coordinators up at night. Make sure you keep that in mind when you're getting your fantasy draft ready. So it's safe to say that the Packers should have no issues in the passing game if everyone is healthy. But running back, what are we doing at running back? Now the Packers didn't use this offseason or the draft to get a premier back, but maybe they don't have to. Although they've had this weird running back by committee featuring a receiver, Ty Montgomery, for the last few years, it was 2017's 5th round pick Aaron Jones that seemed to have stood out and may have a breakout year in 2018, well, after his 2-game suspension, as he was the only running back in Green Bay last season to pick up 5.5 yards per carry. Now going back to the draft, the Packers actually used this draft primarily to strengthen the defense, specifically a secondary, and this was much needed. They drafted at cornerback with their 1st and 2nd round picks. The problem is, with the veteran Morgan Burnett leaving, as far as the secondary, you now have HaHa Clinton-Dix, who is one of the best safeties in the league, cornerback Tramon Williams coming back in his 11th season, back there with a young, unproven supporting cast. Let's see what difference new defensive coordinator Mike Pettin can make. Speaking of coordinators, I like the fact that Joe Philbin is back. Now, he didn't have much success as the head coach of the Dolphins, but prior to that stint, he was the offensive coordinator and the O-line coach for the Packers going back to 2003, the Brett Favre years. He was the offensive coordinator when a young Aaron Rodgers won his first Super Bowl in 2010. Who knows? Maybe this is the year they reunite and bring another Lombardi back to Titletown. And yes, this time I am using Titletown in the right context. Floor for the Packers. The only real threat I see in the NFC North is the Vikings. Their secondary may not be great, but you still have a pretty solid front 7 with Clay Matthews and Mike Daniels. Plus they got Aaron Rodgers. He's the only quarterback I've seen in my lifetime that actually makes the Hail Mary play work. Not once, but 3 times. With him back, they don't lose more than 6 games. Ceiling. If this young secondary has a season like the young Eagles secondary did in 2017, where they gave up a lot of big plays but created a ton of turnovers, if Aaron Rodgers to Jimmy Graham is as scary as it sounds, and if Aaron Jones has a breakout year, I can see them winning every game except maybe one against the Vikings, and then maybe dropping one to New England or the Rams. Thank you all for watching. Please subscribe. Please hit the bell to be notified whenever a new video comes out. And once again, thank you always for watching and for your support. See you on the other side.